So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with My Little Ponytail. So let's start the series. The Sky Tour. Not with thunder or lightning, but with a sound like shattering crystal, a fracture in reality itself above the sweet apple acres. The midday sun dimmed momentarily, bleeding prismatic light. Ponies in Ponyville looked up, squinting at the anomaly that vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving only a faint ozone scent and a sense of unease. Applejack was the first to arrive, her hooves kicking up dark soil as she galloped toward the newly formed crater. What she found wasn't a meteor or magical artifact, but a man. He lay at the crater's center, face down, wearing strange orange and black garments torn in a dozen places. His visible skin was a tapestry of scars, thin white lines crossing thicker, darker ridges. Most striking was the sunbright hair, matted with dirt, and what looked like dried blood. He wasn't moving. What in tarnation? Applejack whispered, cautiously approaching. Stand back, Applejack! Twilight Sparkle's voice cut through the air as she teleported in with a flash of lavender light, her horn glowing with defensive magic. We don't know what it is or where it came from. He ain't in it, Twilight. He's hurt. As if hearing them, the man stirred. His movements were slow, deliberate, not the jerky motion of someone disoriented, but the careful economy of someone assessing damage. He pushed himself to his knees, then stood. He was taller than any stallion, lean but with a density to his frame that spoke of coiled strength. Twilight's horn brightened. Identify yourself. By order of Princess Celestia. The man's eyes opened. Blue. Not the blue of sky or gemstones, but the blue of deep ice, of still water over great depths. They swept across the orchard, noting Applejack's defensive stance, Twilight's glowing horn, the curious Pegasi gathering above. His gaze held no panic, only a weary, ancient assessment. Where? His voice was rough and used. You're in Equestria, near Ponyville, Twilight stated, keeping her tone authoritative. Who are you? How did you get here? The man looked at his hands, flexing them slowly. Equestria. He tested the word. Not the elemental nations. He looked up at the sun, squinting. The sun's wrong. Wrong? Twilight bristled. Princess Celestia's sun is perfect. A flicker of something in those blue eyes, not amusement, but recognition. A ruler who controls the sun. I've met one of those. He looked back at them. I am Naruto Uzumaki, 7th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf. I don't know how I came to be here. Twilight's mind raced. Hokage? Hidden Leaf? None of the historical records mentioned such places. But his title sounded governmental. Royal, even. We need to take you to Canterlot, Twilight decided. The princesses will know what to do. Naruto studied her for a long moment. The purple unicorn, no, alicorn, he corrected himself, noting her wings, held herself with the posture of a scholar soldier. Bright, disciplined, certain of her place in the hierarchy. The orange earth pony beside her had a different energy, grounded, wary but not hostile. Lead the way, he said simply. As they escorted him through Ponyville, Naruto observed. The village was pristine. Not just clean, but ordered. Houses painted in cheerful colors, streets laid in perfect curves, ponies going about their day with synchronized harmony. But to his senses, honed through decades of sensing chakra and intention, something felt off. The smiles were too bright. The greetings too uniform. When ponies noticed him, their reactions followed a pattern: shock, confusion, then a forced smile and a return to their business. As if acknowledging discord was itself a breach of protocol. A pink pony appeared in a burst of confetti. Hi. I'm Pinkie Pie. You're new and you have so many sad lines on your face, but also shiny lines, but they're kind of tangled in. Pinkie! Twilight cut her off. Not now. We're taking him to the princesses. Pinkie's smile didn't falter, but her eyes, for just a fraction of a second, flickered with something Naruto recognized, the hyper-awareness of someone who sees too much. She looked at him, really looked, and her usual manic energy softened into something more observant. You're far from home, she said quietly, a statement, not a question. Yes, Naruto acknowledged. The train to Canterlot was smooth, too smooth. No lurching, no irregular motion. Perfect harmony in mechanics. Naruto sat by the window, watching the landscape flow past, rolling hills in impossible colors, forests that seemed arranged rather than grown. Your world, he said to Twilight, who sat across from him, watching him like a specimen under glass. It's very ordered. Harmony is the foundation of equestrian society, Twilight said, the words sounding rehearsed. Everything has its place. Every pony has their destiny, marked by their cutie mark. Naruto glanced at the symbol on her flank, a starburst. A birthmark determines your life's purpose? Not determines. It reveals. Twilight's certainty wavered slightly. It shows your special talent. What you're meant to do. Naruto thought of Niji, of the Hyuga branch family seals, of destiny as a cage. In my world, we believe purpose is something you choose. Sometimes painfully. The train entered a tunnel, and in the sudden darkness, Naruto's hands glowed faintly blue with chakra, a reflexive diagnostic check. Next to him, Twilight's horns sparked erratically, magic reacting to the foreign energy. What was that? She demanded as light returned. A skill. Like your horn magic, but different. He closed his hand, the light vanishing. They don't seem compatible. Canterlot was a city of impossible spires and gleaming marble, a monument to permanence. The castle stood as its crown, radiating ancient power. As they walked through halls lined with stained glass depicting victories over threats to harmony, Naruto noted the pattern: darkness sealed away, chaos ordered, dissent transformed. The throne room was vast, sunlit through magnificent windows. And there, upon twin thrones, sat beings of power so dense it pressed against Naruto's senses. Princess Celestia was sunlight given form, warm, radiant, with eyes that held centuries of wisdom and weariness. Princess Luna was the moon, quieter, darker, with shadows moving in her gaze that Naruto recognized, the shadows of someone who had fought inner demons and bore the scars. Twilight sparkle. Celestia's voice was like a gentle bell. Introduce our guest. Twilight bowed. Princess Celestia, Princess Luna, this is Naruto Uzumaki. He claims to be a leader from another world. He appeared in a magical anomaly over Sweet Apple Acres. Celestia's gaze settled on Naruto. It was benevolent, maternal, and utterly assessing. Welcome to Equestria, Naruto Uzumaki. Your arrival has caused ripples in our harmonic fields. May I ask what brings you to our world? I didn't choose to come, Naruto said, meeting her gaze without bowing. I was in my world, performing my duties as Hokage. There was a surge of energy, a failed experiment with dimensional technology. Next thing I knew, I was here. Luna leaned forward slightly. Your world knows of dimensional travel? We know of many things. War. Peace. The cost of both. A faint tension entered the room. Celestia's smile remained, but it tightened at the edges. War is a foreign concept in Equestria. We maintain harmony through friendship and understanding. Naruto looked at the stained glass behind her, a depiction of a chaotic being transformed to stone. Not always through understanding, it seems. Celestia's wings shifted almost imperceptibly. Extraordinary threats require extraordinary measures. But always to preserve harmony. She stood, descending from her throne. She towered over him, not just physically but magically, a pressure of sunlight and certainty. You are welcome here as a guest. But you must understand, Equestria functions on balance. Your presence, your energy, disrupts that balance. My energy? What you used on the train. It is not magic as we know it. It reacts unpredictably with our harmonic fields. Celestia stopped before him. For your safety and ours, I must ask that you refrain from using it. Naruto considered. In his world, asking a shinobi to seal their chakra was asking them to become defenseless. But he was in their world, their rules. I'll do my best, he said. But control isn't always perfect. Especially under stress. Then we shall ensure you experience no stress, Celestia said, and the words felt like a gentle command. Twilight will arrange quarters for you in Ponyville. We will study the anomaly that brought you here, and perhaps find a way to return you to your world. As Twilight led him out, Naruto felt Princess Luna's gaze following him. When he glanced back, she gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod, not of royalty to subject, but of one scarred soul recognizing another. The quarters were in the Golden Oak Library, a treehouse filled with books and the faint scent of parchment. Twilight had provided a bed, 2 small, basic supplies, and a stack of books on equestrian history and harmony principles. You'll be monitored, Twilight said bluntly once they were alone. Not as a prisoner, but as a unknown variable. For safety. Naruto nodded, examining a book that showed cutie marks appearing on blank-flanked folds. These marks. They always appear? Always. It's a pony's most important day, when they discover their destiny. And if someone doesn't want that destiny? Twilight blinked. That doesn't happen. The mark reveals who you truly are. To reject it would be to reject yourself. Naruto thought of Gaara, of Sasuke, of himself, all shaped by forces beyond their control, all having to fight to define who they were beyond those forces. Sometimes who we truly are isn't one thing. Sometimes it's what we choose to become. Twilight opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. The certainty in her eyes flickered, just for a moment. Rest. We'll begin research tomorrow. Alone, Naruto sat on the too small bed, his back against the wall. He closed his eyes, reaching inward. Kurama. The great fox stirred within his consciousness. This place reeks of controlled nature. The very air is threaded with compulsion disguised as harmony. You feel it too? I feel everything they buried. The land remembers when it was wild. The trees whisper of being pruned into pleasing shapes. This harmony is a leash, Naruto. They're not evil, Kurama. Just certain they're right. Aren't the most dangerous people always certain they're right? The fox's mental voice was grim. Be careful. Your chakra reacts to their magic like oil to water. And the alicorns, they're old. Powerful in ways we don't understand. Naruto opened his eyes, looking out the window at the perfect town under the perfect sunset. Ponies were returning to their homes, each to their designated place, their assigned roles. In the distance, the moon began to rise, Luna's domain. For a moment, Naruto thought he saw shadows moving across its surface that shouldn't be there. Then they were gone, and the night was still and harmonious once more. That night, he dreamed not of his own memories, but of Equestria's. Dreams of ancient forests being trimmed into orchards, of wild rivers being channeled into gentle streams, of chaotic magic being bound into orderly spells. And beneath it all, a whisper. Some things cannot be harmonized. Some truths cannot be sweetened. What happens when perfection meets something that refuses to be perfected? He woke before dawn, already alert. Outside, the first ponies were beginning their day, their cutie marks gleaming in the early light, each a symbol of a destiny assigned, a life predetermined. Naruto Uzumaki, who had fought his entire life to choose his own path, who had been told he was destined to be a monster, and instead became a protector, looked out at the harmonious world and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. Harmony, he realized, could be the most beautiful cage of all. And he had just been placed inside it. Chapter 2: The Weight of Sunlight. The dreams didn't stop. Each night, Naruto's subconscious brushed against the undercurrents of Equestria, not through chakra, but through something deeper, a resonance with what Kurama called the buried song of the world. Dreams of mountains being politely asked to move, of storms being diplomatically persuaded to dissipate, of wild magic being gently but firmly guided into approved channels. Beneath the harmony, attention thrummed like a string pulled too tight. He awoke each morning before the sun crested the horizon, a habit ingrained from decades of shinobi life. The first week, he'd remained in the library, reading Twilight's assigned texts on harmonic theory and equestrian history. The narratives were smooth, triumphant, and curiously devoid of conflict. Wars were misunderstandings. Oppression was temporary disharmony. Every crisis was resolved by the elements of harmony, tools that, according to the texts, restored balance by transforming or sealing away the source of discord. On the 8th morning, Naruto closed the last book. The silence of the library pressed on him, the ordered shelves feeling less like knowledge and more like containment. He needed to move, to feel the earth beneath his feet, even if it was this strange, too perfect earth. Ponyville at dawn was a study in orchestrated routine. Earth ponies trotted toward the farms, their strength rippling in synchronized motions. Pegasi performed morning cloud patrols in flawless formations. Unicorns' horns glowed as they performed small, precise magics, watering flowers, lighting street lamps that had just gone out. Naruto walked toward the edge of town, his presence causing subtle ripples. Ponies would notice him, their eyes widening briefly before their training kicked in, a smile, a nod, a return to their task. The avoidance was polite, systemic. He found Applejack at the fence line of Sweet Apple Acres, repairing a post. She worked with efficient, powerful motions, her orange coat already damp with morning dew. She didn't look up as he approached, but her ears twitched toward him. "Mornin'," she said, driving a nail with a single swing of her hammer. "Morning," Naruto replied, leaning against the fence. "Need help?" "I've got it," she said, another nail. "But you can watch if you've a mind to." He observed her work. There was an authenticity to Applejack he hadn't seen in other ponies, a lack of performative cheer. Her honesty felt like a rock in a stream of pleasantries. "Your world," she said after a few minutes, pausing to wipe her brow. "Twilight says it's rough. That you've got scars from wars." She spoke the word as if it were foreign, dangerous. "Yes." "What's it like?" Naruto considered. "It's like having a beautiful vase that's been shattered and glued back together. You can still see the cracks. Everyone handles the pieces carefully, knowing how easily it could break again." Applejack looked at him fully for the first time. Her green eyes held no pity, only a deep, pragmatic assessment. "Sounds heavy." It is. She returned to her work. We don't have wars here. Got monsters sometimes, and chaos, but the princesses and the elements handle it. No pony gets shattered. But what happens? Naruto asked quietly. When the thing that needs handling isn't a monster, but an idea? When the disharmony isn't outside, but in how you think? Applejack's hammer hesitated mid-swing. She lowered it. That's a mighty peculiar question. It's the only kind that matters. A voice cut through the morning air, sharp with enthusiasm. There you are! I've been looking everywhere! Rainbow Dash landed in a blur of color, her prismatic mane defying the gentle breeze. She hovered, wings buzzing, her eyes fixed on Naruto with competitive curiosity. Twilight said you were some kind of leader warrior thing. From another world. That true? It's true. Cool. So, what can you do? Got any awesome powers? Can you fly? Fight? Rainbow. Applejack snapped. He ain't a carnival attraction. I'm just asking. Rainbow's gaze didn't waver. I mean, if you're from a world with wars, you must be tough, right? How tough? Naruto met her gaze. The Pegasus's energy was familiar, the brash confidence of a talented shinobi before their first real loss. It was an energy that hadn't yet learned the weight of consequences. Tough enough to know that showing off how tough you are is usually a sign you're not tough enough, he said evenly. Rainbow's eyes narrowed. Oh, you think you're? Rainbow Dash. The voice was quiet, but it carried. Fluttershy emerged from the edge of the everfree forest, a basket of herbs in her mouth. She set it down, her turquoise eyes moving from Rainbow to Naruto with a sensitivity that felt invasive in its gentleness. Please don't provoke our guest. I'm not provoking. I'm interrogating. There's a difference. Fluttershy approached Naruto, not meeting his eyes directly but studying him from beneath her pink mane. You're in pain, she whispered, so quietly only he could hear. Not just the scars outside. There's a very large, very old pain inside you. And it's lonely. Naruto felt Kurama stir, not with threat but with surprise. She senses me. Not clearly, but she feels the edges. I carry reminders, Naruto said to Fluttershy. We all do. Fluttershy nodded as if he'd said something profound. The animals in the forest, they're nervous. Since you arrived. Not because you're scary, but because you're different. You don't fit the pattern. Before he could respond, a magenta flash announced Twilight's arrival. She looked harried, scrolls floating in her telekinetic grip. Naruto! I've been looking for you. Princess Celestia has requested your presence in Canterlot. Immediately. The train ride was silent. Twilight buried herself in scrolls, avoiding conversation. Naruto watched the landscape, his senses stretching. With a slight, controlled release of chakra to his eyes, a minimal sensory enhancement, the world shifted. Equestria glowed. Not with chakra, but with threads of colored light woven through everything, the earth, the air, the very trees. Pink threads of laughter, blue threads of loyalty, orange of honesty, all braided into a shimmering lattice that blanketed the land. But beneath the glow, in the shadows between the threads, he saw darker patches, knots of frustration where the lattice strained, gray areas where the light had been forced, not grown. And around Ponyville, emanating from the old castle in the Everfree, a deep, ancient purple glow that pulsed like a slow, steady heart, the tree of harmony. What are you doing? Twilight asked sharply, her horns sparking. Your energy, it's interfering with my spell work. Naruto let the enhancement fade. Just observing. With what? It's not magic. It's invasive. It's a way of seeing truth. Sometimes the truth is invasive. Twilight looked away, troubled. Canterlot's throne room felt different this time. Princess Celestia stood by the great window, the morning sun framing her like a halo. Princess Luna was absent. Naruto Uzumaki, Celestia said without turning. Please approach. He did, stopping at what would be a respectful distance in his world, close enough for conversation, far enough for reaction time. Your presence in Equestria has now been observed for 8 days, Celestia said, her voice melodic but carrying an undertone of steel. In that time, harmonic readings across the kingdom have shown fluctuations. Minor but concerning. The flow of magic in Ponyville has become slightly less efficient. The emotional resonance of the town has developed a faint dissonance. I'm not doing anything intentional, Naruto said. I believe you. She finally turned. Her expression was kind, but her eyes held the weight of millennia. That is what concerns me. Your mere existence here, your different energy, acts as a catalyst. Like a single note out of tune that makes the entire orchestra struggle. She descended the dais. I have consulted ancient records. There are precedents for beings from beyond our reality arriving in Equestria. They are always dealt with for the preservation of harmony. Dealt with? Transformed to align with our world. Or if that is not possible, contained. The word hung in the air. Naruto remained still, his breathing even. You're talking about sealing me away. It is a last resort. Celestia's horn glowed softly, not threateningly, but illustratively. An image appeared between them, a crystal prison, beautiful and faceted, floating in a void. The crystal stasis. A peaceful, dreamless sleep, within a perfect harmonic field. It would neutralize your disruptive energy while keeping you safe. Naruto thought of Gaara, sealed with a demon as a child. Of himself, with Kurama. Of every being in his world who had been contained, for the greater good. I've been a container before, he said, his voice low. I didn't care for it. This is different. There is no malice, no punishment. Only preservation. Preservation of what? Your order? Your control? Celestia's patient smile didn't falter, but the sunlight in the room brightened a fraction. You see control. I see responsibility. For 1,000 years I have guided Equestria from war, chaos, and darkness into an era of peace and prosperity. Every decision I make is to protect that peace. Peace isn't the absence of conflict, Princess. It's the presence of justice. Of choice. And our ponies have choice. For the first time, a flicker of frustration crossed her regal features. They choose to embrace their destinies. They choose friendship. They choose harmony. Do they? Naruto took a step forward. The guards along the walls tensed. Or have they been shaped, generation after generation, by a system that rewards conformity and labels anything else as disharmony? What happens to a pony who doesn't want their cutie-marked destiny? Who questions? I've been reading your histories. I don't see them. Where are they? The room grew warmer. Celestia's wings unfurled slightly, casting long shadows. They find their way. With guidance. Sometimes, they require redirection. For their own good, and the good of all. Naruto remembered the stained glass images of defeated foes. Not slain, but transformed, sealed, or reformed. A gentler system, perhaps. But a system with zero tolerance for deviation. I won't be sealed, Princess. And I won't be redirected. I am who I am. A leader who fought for a world where people could choose their own path. If that's disruptive to your harmony, then maybe harmony needs disrupting. The silence that followed was immense, filled with the pressure of celestial power held in check. Celestia stared at him, and in her eyes he saw not anger, but a profound, weary sorrow, the sorrow of a gardener seeing a weed in her perfect lawn that cannot be persuaded to become a flower. I do not wish to be your enemy, Naruto Uzumaki, she said finally, the heat receding. And I believe you do not wish to harm Equestria. But you must understand, the system you question has kept millions safe and happy for centuries. I cannot allow one soul, however noble his intentions, to risk that. She turned back to the window. You will return to Ponyville. You will continue to refrain from using your foreign energy. Twilight Sparkle will monitor you. We will search for a way to return you to your world. That is the optimal solution for all. And if you can't find one? Celestia didn't answer. She didn't need to. On the return trip, Twilight was visibly agitated. You challenged her, she said accusingly. Princess Celestia. The wisest, kindest being in Equestria. The wisest, kindest beings can still be wrong, Naruto said, watching Canterlot shrink in the distance. Or they can be so used to being right that they can't see the cracks in their own paradise. It's not a... Twilight stopped herself, taking a deep breath. You don't understand. You've been here a week. She's guided us for millennia. She knows what's best. Maybe, Naruto conceded. But what's best and what's right aren't always the same thing. And leaders who confuse the two, they create some of the worst suffering in the world. That evening, Naruto didn't return to the library. He walked into the everfree forest. The change was immediate. The harmonic lattice thinned, the oppressive order receded. Here, magic felt wild, untamed. Plants grew in chaotic profusion, the air hummed with raw energy. It was dangerous, alive, real in a way the manicured lands of Equestria were not. He found a clearing and sat, legs crossed, hands on his knees. He breathed slowly, letting a trickle of chakra cycle through his system, not for any purpose but to feel its familiar flow. The forest rustled around him, creatures watching from the shadows. This place remembers, Kurama rumbled, sounding almost relaxed. The old magic. Before the alicorns put everything in neat little boxes. It feels more like home, Naruto admitted. Because home is messy. Home has conflict. Home has choice. A branch snapped. Naruto didn't move, but his senses tracked the approach. Not a predator. Something, hesitant. Fluttershy emerged from the foliage, her wings tight against her body. Oh. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just checking on the phoenix nests and I felt, It's alright, Naruto said, opening his eyes. You can feel it, can't you? The difference between out there and in here. She nodded, creeping closer. The forest is scary. But it's honest. The animals don't pretend. They feel what they feel. She looked at him, her gaze piercing in its shyness. You're like the forest. Not scary, but honest. The pain inside you, it doesn't pretend to be anything else. Pain is a truth teller, Naruto said. It reminds us we're alive. That we cared about something enough to be hurt when we lost it. Fluttershy sat, folding her legs beneath her. The big pain, it's not just yours, is it? There's another presence. Old and angry and so very lonely. Kurama went still within him. Tell her nothing. But Naruto had never believed in ignoring pain, in any form. Yes. There is another. A being of great power, sealed inside me long ago. We were enemies. Then, we understood each other. Now we share our path. His name is Kurama. Fluttershy's eyes filled with tears, but not of fear. Of compassion. He's been alone for a very long time. Inside, Kurama bristled. I don't need her pity. It's not pity, Naruto thought back. It's recognition. To Fluttershy he said. He doesn't want to be thanked or pitied. He just wants to be acknowledged. As himself. She nodded, as if this made perfect sense. They sat in silence as the forest darkened around them. Fireflies began to blink in the clearing, their light chaotic, beautiful, unorchestrated. Princess Celestia is afraid of you, Fluttershy whispered suddenly. Not because you're bad. But because you don't fit. And if you don't fit, then maybe the shape of our world isn't the only shape possible. And that's a very scary thought for someone who built the world. It was the most insightful thing anyone had said to him since he arrived. When he returned to the library late that night, a single scroll lay on his bed, sealed with a crescent moon. He broke the seal. The parchment was blank. But when he held it, a voice echoed softly in his mind, Princess Luna's. The scars you bear, I recognize them. Not on skin, but on spirit. The dreams of your world are loud with conflict, but also with choice. The dreams of ours are quiet, harmonious, and sometimes terribly silent. Be watchful, shinobi. The sun's light casts deep shadows. And in this land, the shadows are where we put what we do not wish to see. The message faded. The parchment turned to silver mist and vanished. Naruto looked out the window at the perfect, starry sky, a sky Princess Luna raised each night. A princess who understood darkness, who had been sealed away in her own moon for 1,000 years because she became disharmonious. He thought of Celestia's offer, crystal stasis. A beautiful, peaceful prison. He thought of the lattice of harmony, woven through everything, guiding, shaping, controlling. He thought of Fluttershy, seeing the pain others ignored. And he knew, with the calm certainty that had carried him through 2 wars, that his presence here was no accident. He was a question made flesh, dropped into a world of answers. And questions, once asked, cannot be unasked? Somewhere in Canterlot, in a tower that caught the first light of dawn, Princess Celestia gazed at her perfect kingdom and felt, for the first time in centuries, a tremor in the foundation of her certainty. A single, unbending note in her harmonious world. And she knew, with a mother's sorrow and a ruler's resolve, that some weeds cannot be persuaded. They must be removed, lest they crack the garden wall. The sun set. The moon rose. And in the space between them, a shinobi waited, refusing to be a weed or a flower, refusing to be anything but what he chose to be. Chapter 3, The Marked Path. Naruto found Rarity at the edge of the ever-free forest, which surprised them both. He had been walking a perimeter, a habit from decades of establishing secure zones, when he heard the sound of fabric tearing followed by a most undignified curse. He moved silently through the undergrowth to find the white unicorn entangled in a thicket of thorny vines, her lavender mane askew and a bolt of sapphire blue silk ruined beneath her. Confound these savage plants! She huffed, her horn glowing as she tried to levitate herself free, only to snag another section of her dress. A lady cannot source quality materials in this wilderness. Naruto stepped into the clearing. Need help? Rarity yelped, scrambling and making the entanglement worse. Goodness! You startled me! And no, I am perfectly. The vines tightened, cutting off her protest. She sighed, her shoulders slumping. All right, yes. A gentle colt's assistance would be most welcome. Naruto moved forward, his hands careful and precise. He didn't rip the vines, he studied their growth pattern, found the points of tension, and applied pressure at specific nodes. The thorns retracted, the vines loosened, and within moments she was free, her silk salvaged albeit with a few new runs. Rarity stared. That was remarkably efficient. Not a hint of magic. Sometimes understanding a thing's nature is better than forcing it, he said, offering a hand to help her up. She took it with her hoof, her touch surprisingly strong. Well, thank you. I am Rarity, though I suppose you know that. Twilight has spoken of you. The mysterious, scarred visitor from beyond. She brushed dirt from her coat, her critical eye sweeping over him. That orange is a statement, but the fit is atrocious. It does nothing for your silhouette. Naruto glanced down at his worn Hokage robe. It's functional. Function and beauty need not be estranged. Her horn glowed, and a measuring tape floated from her saddlebags, whizzing around him before he could react. Shoulders, waist, interesting proportions. Bipedal structure presents challenges, but not insurmountable ones. You have a dignitary's bearing, you should dress accordingly. It affects how one is perceived, you know. I've found actions speak louder than clothes. Spoken like someone who has never worn bespoke tailoring. She packed the tape away, her businesslike demeanor softening. But truly, thank you. That silk is from the saddle Arabian twilight moths. Exceedingly rare. I'm designing a gown for Princess Luna's upcoming Starlight Gala. Something to complement her night, not compete with it. She looked toward Ponyville, her expression growing pensive. The gala is the pinnacle of harmonious society. Every pony in their perfect place, performing their perfect role. It's beautiful. And sometimes, she trailed off, shaking her head. Sometimes it feels like the most elaborate stage play, and we've all rehearsed our parts for so long we've forgotten there's an audience. It was an unexpected moment of vulnerability. Naruto saw it then, the slight tension around her eyes, the way her smile didn't always reach them. The performer who knew she was performing. You don't enjoy it? I adore it, she said too quickly. Then, quieter. I am Equestria's premier fashion designer. It is my destiny, my cutie mark. She gestured to the 3 diamonds on her flank. I create beauty and generosity. It is who I am. To not enjoy it would be ungrateful. Disharmonious. The word disharmonious landed with a familiar weight. In my village, Naruto said, leaning against a mossy stone, there was a man. He was born into a clan of assassins. His mark, if you will, was a genetic seal, a birthright of stealth and killing. It was his destiny. He spent his whole life trying to prove that destiny wrong, to be a protector instead of a killer. It nearly destroyed him. But in the end, he chose his own path. It was harder. But it was his. Rarity was silent for a long time, her eyes on her cutie mark. That's a tragic story. It's a story about choice, he corrected gently. The sound of galloping hooves interrupted them. A young, cream-colored earth pony filly with a pink and purple mane skidded to a halt, her eyes wide with panic. Miss Rarity! Come quick! It's Sweetie Belle! And Apple Bloom and Scootaloo! They're at the old castle and something's wrong! Rarity's composure shattered. The castle of the 2 sisters? By themselves? That's forbidden! She took off, Naruto keeping pace easily beside her. Who are they? My little sister and her friends. The cutie mark crusaders, their blank flanks. She said the term with a mix of affection and deep anxiety. They're desperate for their cutie marks. They try everything. And that castle, it's unstable, filled with old, wild magic. If they've triggered something. They burst into the clearing surrounding the ancient castle. The structure was a ruin, but power hummed from its stones, a deeper, older magic than the harmonic lattice, untamed by Celestia's order. At the entrance, 2 more ponies had arrived, Applejack, looking furious and terrified, and Rainbow Dash, hovering anxiously. They went in an hour ago, Rainbow said. We heard a sound. Like a chord being struck. Then silence. Applejack was already heading for the broken doors. I'm going in. Wait. Naruto's voice stopped them. He closed his eyes, extending his senses not with chakra, but with the heightened awareness of a sage. He felt it immediately, a twisting, dissonant magic pulsing from deep within the castle. It wasn't malevolent, but it was confused, a magical echo reacting to something. There's a magical feedback loop inside, he said. Triggered by a strong, concentrated desire. Unfiltered. It's amplifying. Their desire for cutie marks, Rarity whispered, horrified. Naruto nodded. The castle's old magic is resonating with their wish. It's creating an unstable field. Going in blind could collapse it on them. Rainbow Dash snorted. So what? We just wait. No. I go in. Alone. My energy is already foreign. I'm less likely to disrupt the balance further. He looked at Applejack. You have the strongest connection to the earth here. Stay at the entrance. If you feel the ground tremble, get every pony back. Rainbow, you're fastest. I need you to get Princess Luna. Not Celestia. Luna. Her magic is of this older, darker sort. She'll understand how to stabilize it. The orders were clear, calm, and brooked no argument. They were the voice of a commander who had managed battlefield chaos. For a moment, the ponies just stared. Then, Rainbow gave a sharp nod and shot into the sky. Applejack took a steadying breath and planted her hooves at the castle entrance. Rarity caught his arm as he moved toward the door. Please! She's my sister. I'll bring them out, he promised, and stepped into the gloom. Inside, the air tasted of ozone and old dust. The harmonic lattice was shredded here, replaced by pulsing strands of raw, chromatic energy that writhed through the hallways like sickly vines. Naruto followed the thickest concentration, his footsteps silent on the cracked marble. He found them in the old throne room. 3 fillies stood frozen in a triangle, caught in a beam of chaotic, polychromatic light that shone from a shattered crystal in the ceiling. Their eyes were wide, unseeing. Around their flanks, images flickered wildly, dozens of different cutie marks appearing and vanishing in rapid succession: apples, lightning bolts, stars, musical notes, shields, flames, a dizzying cascade of potential destinies. The magic wasn't attacking them. It was responding to them. To their desperate, unified, unfocused cry of, "Who am I meant to be?" The beam was feeding back on itself, growing brighter. The stone around them was beginning to crack, unable to contain the energy. This is their system backfiring, Kurama observed. The cutie mark magic, the destiny magic, it's embedded in the land. This castle is a wound where that magic leaks out raw. Their desire is a magnet. How do I break the resonance without hurting them? You can't use chakra. It'll make the feedback explosive. You have to speak to them. Break the thought loop. Naruto stepped to the edge of the light. The energy prickled against his skin, a discordant symphony of maybe, and what if? Sweetie Belle. Apple Bloom. Scootaloo, he said, his voice calm but cutting through the magical hum. Can you hear me? No response. Their flickering cutie marks sped up. He changed tactics. He didn't tell them to stop wanting. He spoke to the want itself. I know what it's like, he said, kneeling at the light's edge. To look at your skin and see a mark you didn't choose. To have the world tell you who you are before you've had a chance to decide for yourself. The flickering slowed, just a fraction. I was born with a different kind of mark. A seal. It made everyone fear me. Hate me. They said I was destined to be a monster, a destroyer. He let the memory fill his voice, the loneliness, the anger. For years I raged against it. I tried so hard to prove them wrong, to prove I was something else. Anything else. The chaotic light began to pulse in time with his words. And then I realized, fighting a destiny is still letting it control you. The answer wasn't to become what they said, or to become the opposite. The answer was to become myself. Not a monster. Not a hero. Just Naruto. He reached his hand into the light. The magic swarmed over it, a torrent of possibilities. It didn't burn, it questioned. It tried to assign him a destiny, flickering images against his skin, a fox, a leaf, a whirlpool, a crown. He let them come, and let them go. Your cutie mark isn't a command, he said, his voice a steady anchor in the storm. It's a question. And you get to spend your whole life answering it. The cutie mark isn't the end. It's the beginning of the conversation. Inside the beam, Apple Bloom's ear twitched. But what if we never get one? The voice was small, terrified, and came from all 3 of them at once, a unified thought given sound by the magic. Then you get to draw your own, Naruto said simply. The beam stuttered. The flickering images on their flanks slowed, then settled. Not on one image, but 3 different ones that glowed softly before fading, leaving their flanks blank once more. The feedback loop broke. The light from the crystal dimmed to a gentle glow. The 3 fillies collapsed. Naruto was there in an instant, catching them, checking their pulses, strong, if exhausted. They were unconscious, but unharmed. He carried them out, one by one, into the sunlight where their sisters wept and clutched them. Princess Luna arrived with the dusk, her dark chariot cutting through the twilight. She examined the castle, her horn glowing with deep indigo light, calming the residual magic. An echo of the pre-harmonic era, she said to Naruto as the fillies were taken home to recover. A place where destiny magic was wild and untamed. Their combined, focused desire acted as a lens. It could have crystallized them, frozen them in a single moment of possibility forever. She looked at him, her starry mane flowing. You spoke to them. Not with magic, but with truth. You gave them a new thought, and it changed the resonance. That should not be possible. It's always possible, he said. Change the mind, you change the magic. Luna was silent for a long moment. My sister's harmony is a beautiful song. But a song can become a cage if you are not allowed to leave the choir. You offered them a door. She looked toward Ponyville, where lights were coming on in perfect little windows. Doors are dangerous things in a walled garden. The repercussions began that night. First, from the parents. They were grateful, but their gratitude was laced with a cold fear. They pulled their children closer, their eyes on Naruto holding a new kind of wariness. He had done the impossible, yes. But he had also spoken of rejecting cutie marks, of drawing your own destiny. That was heretical. Second, from Twilight. She confronted him in the library, her scrolls on harmonic resonance spread around her. What you did was incredibly reckless, she said, though her anger was undercut by confusion. You could have been crystallized. They could have been lost forever. They were being lost forever anyway, Naruto said, looking up from a book on equestrian geology. They were so desperate for a destiny they were willing to gamble their lives in a ruin. That's not healthy, Twilight. That's a system creating its own victims. The system works. Millions of ponies get their cutie marks and live happy, fulfilling lives. And these three? What about them? What about the ones who don't fit? Where are they in your histories? Twilight had no answer. She left in a swirl of frustration. The third repercussion came silently. In the dead of night, a scroll arrived borne by a bat-winged Pegasus who vanished into shadows. Celestia's seal. It was an invitation. Or a summons. Naruto Uzumaki, your actions at the castle of the two sisters have been reported. You have prevented a tragedy, for which Equestria thanks you. However, your method, and the philosophies you express to vulnerable foes, have caused significant concern. Harmony is not merely a system, but a fragile ecosystem of belief. You are requested to appear before the Equestrian Council of Destiny in Canterlot in 3 days' time to discuss your understanding of purpose and its place in our society. This is not an inquest, but a dialogue. We seek understanding. Princess Celestia. Naruto rolled the scroll back up. A dialogue, with the council about destiny. He knew what this was, a polite attempt to correct him, to bring the disruptive element back into alignment. To persuade the weed to become a flower after all. He looked out at the moon. He thought of the 3 fillies, sleeping now, their flanks still blank but their dreams perhaps a little quieter. He thought of the lattice of light, and the knots of strain within it. They're afraid, Kurama mused. Not of your power. Of your idea. Ideas are the only things that can truly change the world, Naruto thought back. That's why they're more dangerous than any jutsu. The next morning, he went to Sweet Apple Acres. He found Applejack at the Crusaders' clubhouse, sitting with a sleeping Apple Bloom's head in her lap. The Earth Pony looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. She talked in her sleep, Applejack said quietly. Said I get to draw my own? She stroked her sister's mane. Is that true? What you told them? It can be, Naruto said. If you're brave enough. Brave. Applejack tasted the word. We tell them to be brave in accepting their destiny. You're telling them to be brave in choosing it. That's a heavier kind of brave. It is. She was silent for a long time. Then, the Council of Destiny. You going? Yes. They're gonna try to smooth you over. Make you fit. They're real polite about it, but they're as stubborn as the earth. I know. Applejack looked at him, really looked at him, the scars, the calm eyes, the unyielding posture. You ain't gonna fit, are you? No, Naruto said. I'm not. A small, grim smile touched her lips. Good. As he walked back to town, he passed the schoolhouse. He saw Cheerily, the teacher, gathering her students. She was pointing to a chart showing the joy of discovery. When a cutie mark appears. The foals listened, enraptured. All except 3. In the back, Sweetie Belle, Apple Bloom, and Scuttaloo sat together. They weren't looking at the chart. They were looking out the window, their expressions not desperate, but thoughtful. One of them, Scuttaloo, caught his eye. She didn't smile. She gave a slow, deliberate nod. It wasn't gratitude. It was acknowledgement. The first crack in the wall of harmony is not a shout. It is a question, whispered by 3 fillies who had been shown a door. And a question, once asked, cannot be unasked? Chapter 4. the Council of the Marked. The air in Canterlot felt different this time. Sharper. As if the city itself had been polished to a finer, more brittle sheen. The streets were devoid of the usual cheerful bustle. Instead, well-dressed ponies moved with hushed purpose, their glances toward Naruto's escorted procession quick and assessing. He was not taken to the throne room. The path led deeper into the mountain's heart, to a chamber hewn from crystalline rock that pulsed with a soft, internal light. The Council of Destiny. The name had been in none of Twilight's history books. The chamber was circular, ringed by 9 elevated seats carved from different materials: marble, obsidian, quartz, petrified wood, silver, gold, amber, jade, and moonstone. In 8 of them sat ponies, their coats and manes impeccably groomed, their cutie marks displayed like insignia of office. They were old, not in a frail way, but in the manner of ancient trees, rooted, immovable. The central seat, the marble one, was empty. Flanking the entrance stood 2 royal guard unicorns, their horns glowing with a constant, low-level field. A containment field, Naruto realized. Not aggressive, but preventative. The air tasted of ozone and rosewater. "Naruto Uzumaki of the Hidden Leaf," a voice intoned. It came from the pony in the obsidian seat, a slate-gray earth pony stallion with a cutie mark of a balanced scale etched in granite. "You stand before the custodians of Harmony's promise. We have reviewed the incident at the castle of the 2 sisters." A unicorn in the quartz seat, her mane the color of frost, spoke next. Her mark was a compass rose made of crystal. "Your intervention prevented a crystallizing resonance event. For this, the kingdom acknowledges a debt." Her tone suggested the debt was an inconvenient ledger entry. "However," said the pony in the petrified wood seat, a stallion with a bark-like coat and a mark of a pruned bonsai tree, "your methodology and, more critically, your spoken philosophy to the afflicted foals fall outside harmonic parameters. You introduced variables." Naruto stood in the center of the chamber, his hands loose at his sides. "Variables?" "The concept of self-determined purpose," said the silver-seated Pegasus, her mark a cloud with a predetermined lightning path. "It is an unstable paradigm. Cutie marks are not assigned, they are revealed. They are the universe's gentle nudge toward one's optimal contribution to the whole." "A nudge," Naruto repeated. "What happens if a pony doesn't follow that nudge?" The chamber's light dimmed slightly. The 8 council members exchanged glances. It was the pony in the jade seat, an earth mare with a mark of interconnected vines, who answered. Her voice was kind, motherly, and utterly firm. "All foals experience temporary confusion. With guidance from family, community, and the crown, they find their way to joy. The path is always there. We simply help them see it." "And if the path brings them no joy? What if their special talent is something they grow to hate?" The question hung in the air like a foul smell. The amber-seated unicorn, his mark a bee within a geometric hive, shifted uncomfortably. "Such cases are extraordinarily rare, and are handled with the utmost care and redirection by Celestia's School for Gifted Unicorns, or other, specialized institutions." Redirection. Specialized institutions. The euphemisms were as polished as the chamber walls. "You speak of a world where purpose is chosen," said the moonstone-seated pony, the only one whose species Naruto couldn't place. Her coat was a shimmering gray, her eyes solid silver orbs with no pupil. Her cutie mark was a closed lotus. "Choice implies conflict. Conflict breeds disharmony. Equestria has moved beyond such primitive struggles." Naruto looked at each of them. They weren't evil. They were true believers. Architects of a paradise, convinced every wall they built was for protection, every rule a kindness. "In my world," he said, his voice echoing softly in the crystalline space, "we learn that peace bought by removing choice is just quiet tyranny. You have no wars. No open conflict. But I see the strain in your land. I see the ponies who smile too brightly, who work too hard at their destiny, who are afraid to ask what if. You haven't ended suffering. You've just buried it under a mountain of good intentions." The containment field around the room brightened, humming at a higher frequency. The council members' expressions remained placid, but a new tension entered the chamber. "You are an outsider," the granite scale stallion said, not unkindly. "You see with eyes scarred by conflict. We see a millennium of peace, prosperity, and pony happiness. The evidence is all around you. Our system works." "At what cost?" Naruto pressed. "Where are the ponies who didn't fit? The ones who couldn't be redirected? What's in the shadows your harmony is too bright to illuminate?" Before any could answer, a new light filled the chamber. Not from the crystals, but from the entrance. Princess Celestia entered, her presence instantly dominating the space. She did not take the central marble seat. She stood before Naruto, her wings slightly unfurled, her expression a masterpiece of compassionate concern. "Naruto Uzumaki," she said, and her voice was a balm, a lullaby. This council is not your enemy. They are the guardians of our most cherished principle, that every pony has a place, and in that place, they find true happiness. The confusion you sow comes from a place of empathy, we see that. You wish to spare others pain. So do we. She took a step closer. The light around her was warm, inviting, and utterly inescapable. But consider the foals. You offered them the terrible burden of infinite choice. Of creating themselves from nothing. That is a lonely, frightening path. Our way offers a map. A destiny. A certainty that they are needed, that they belong. Is that a cage? Or is it the embrace of a family that knows what is best? It was the most seductive argument yet. She wasn't threatening. She was offering relief from the existential dread of freedom. Naruto thought of the fillies, of their desperate, hungry search for a mark. Would a map have been a kindness? For a moment he doubted. Then he thought of Sasuke, searching for meaning in revenge. Of Gaara, finding it in protecting others. Of himself, clawing his way from monster to Hokage. The pain had been immense. The path had been theirs. The embrace of a family that never lets you leave is still a prison, princess, he said, his voice low but clear in the silent room. You can love your cage. You can decorate it. It's still a cage. Celestia's benevolent smile didn't falter, but the warmth in her eyes cooled by degrees. I see we speak different languages. You speak of chains. I speak of roots. She turned to the council. The guest has given us much to ponder. His perspective, while foreign, is offered without malice. We shall adjourn. The council members bowed their heads. The containment field dropped. But as Celestia turned to leave, she paused beside him. Her voice dropped, for his ears only. The tree you shake has deep roots, Naruto. The fruit that falls may not be the one you wished for. Be certain you are ready to catch what plummets. She left, sunlight trailing in her wake. The dismissal was clear. As Naruto was led out by the guards, the council members watched him go, their faces unreadable tablets of stone. He did not return directly to Ponyville. On a high balcony overlooking the city, he found Princess Luna, her silhouette etched against the rising moon. The Council of Destiny, she said without turning. They have not convened in over 50 years. Not since the incident with the Pony of Shadows. She glanced at him. You unsettle my sister deeply. She does not summon the custodians for trivial matters. They're keepers of the story, Naruto said, joining her at the railing. The official narrative. They smoothed over the contradictions. They maintain the lattice, Luna corrected softly. The harmonic lattice you sense is not merely magical. It is psychological. It is woven from belief, from tradition, from the collective agreement that this is the way things are. The council are its weavers. They find frayed threads, doubts, questions, ponies who stray, and they reweave them. And you? Naruto asked. Where do you stand in the weaving? Luna's starry mane seemed to dim. I am the night. The time of dreams, of secrets, of things unseen. The lattice is thinnest in my domain. I see what the bright sun misses, the nightmares that fester under smiling faces, the desires that dare not speak their name in daylight. She turned to him, her eyes ancient and sad. You ask of ponies who did not fit. I have seen them. In the old days they were called blank pages, those whose cutie marks never came, or whose talents were deemed disruptive. Some found places in the shadows of society. Others were offered the crystal stasis. A dreamless, peaceful sleep within the harmony field. A final solution to a permanent dissonance. Naruto felt a cold anger, clean and sharp. She told me it was for extra-dimensional threats. It is for any threat to the harmony, Luna whispered. And a pony who cannot harmonize is a threat. Below, Canterlot glittered, a perfect jewel box of order. Why are you telling me this? Because you are the first stone thrown into our still pond in 1,000 years, Luna said. The ripples will reach shores my sister has long forgotten. And because... She hesitated, a vulnerability showing through her regal facade. Because I was once the greatest dissonance of all. I was redirected. Sealed in my moon for a millennium. I was harmonized. And I remember what it is to have your very self be the problem that must be solved. She placed a hoof on the railing. My sister loves her subjects more than life itself. But love can be a possessive, fearful thing. She would rather see a pony sleep forever in perfect peace than watch them wander, lost and hurting, in an imperfect world. She believes it is the kinder option. It's not kindness, Naruto said, the image of the 3 fillies in his mind. It's control. It's giving up on someone's potential because it's easier than guiding them through their pain. Luna nodded slowly. I know. But try telling that to a gardener who has spent 1,000 years pruning every thorn. She sees only the threat to her roses. A flash of cyan light announced Twilight's arrival. She looked between them, anxiety clear on her face. Princess Luna. Naruto. Princess Celestia has requested Naruto's immediate return to Ponyville. There's an incident. The incident was at the edge of the Whitetail Wood. A crowd had gathered, town's ponies, guards, and at the center, Fluttershy, who was trembling before a writhing, monstrous shape tangled in a net of golden magical energy. It was a manticore, but unlike any Naruto had seen in Fluttershy's care. This one's fur was patchy, its eyes rolled back in its head, and from its flank, where its natural scorpion tail should be, grew a second, mutated tail, this one crystalline and sparking with erratic magic. It thrashed against the containment spell cast by 2 unicorn guards, roaring in what sounded less like rage and more like agony. It just appeared, Mare said, her voice shaky. It was normal this morning when Fluttershy did her rounds. Then it started convulsing, and that thing grew out of it. Fluttershy was weeping softly. It's in so much pain. The magic is wrong. It's like it's fighting itself. Naruto approached the containment field. The mutated tail wasn't a natural growth. It was crystalline, like the stasis crystal Celestia had shown him. It pulsed with a corrupted, forced harmony, a magic trying to overwrite the manticore's natural essence. Stand back, sir! A guard ordered. Naruto ignored him. He closed his eyes, extending his sage senses. He felt the manticore's wild, bestial life force, a simple, powerful energy of hunt and survival. And wrapped around it, piercing it like a parasite, was a strand of harmonic magic gone wrong. It was trying to reform the manticore, to make it something more harmonious. But the creature's nature was resisting violently. The conflict was tearing it apart. This wasn't an attack. This was a magical disease. A harmony infection. The containment spell is making it worse, Naruto said, opening his eyes. It's adding more structured magic to the conflict. You're poisoning it. We must contain the threat, the guard insisted. You're killing it. Naruto turned to Fluttershy. Do you trust me? She looked from the suffering beast to his calm, scarred face. She nodded. Drop the containment on my mark. For 3 seconds only. The guards protested, but a firm nod from Twilight, who had just arrived, overruled them. Naruto stepped right up to the edge of the fading golden net. As it fell, he moved. Not with chakra, but with pure, refined physical skill. He darted inside the manticore's thrashing range, his hands moving in precise, non-harmful strikes to pressure points along its spine, a pain suppression technique from the gentle fist style, modified for a completely different physiology. The manticore stiffened, its agony momentarily short-circuited. In that instant of stillness, Naruto placed his palm on the base of the crystalline tail. He didn't push chakra. Instead, he did something subtler. He exerted his will, the same will that had calmed the chaotic magic in the castle. He projected a single, clear concept: be what you are. Not what they want you to be. The parasitic harmonic strand, deprived of the manticore's violent resistance and faced with a calm, unwavering assertion of self, recoiled. The crystalline tail cracked, then shattered into harmless dust. The manticore collapsed, breathing heavily, its natural tail twitching weakly. The golden containment field slammed back up, but it was unnecessary. The beast was exhausted, but itself again. Silence hung over the clearing, broken only by Fluttershy rushing forward to tend to the creature. Twilight stared at Naruto, her scientific mind warring with what she'd just seen. What was that? That wasn't magic. It wasn't anything. It was acceptance, Naruto said, watching Fluttershy soothe the frightened manticore. The magic was trying to force it to be something else. I just reminded it that it was already enough. He looked at the dust of the crystalline tail. It was the same substance as the crystal stasis. This was no accident. This was a leak. A flaw in the harmonic system, where the magic of enforced harmony, when it met something that couldn't conform, didn't just seal it away, it sometimes tried to violently remake it. The crowd began to murmur, looking from the healed manticore to Naruto with a new kind of awe. It was the look of ponies seeing a miracle that contradicted everything they knew. Twilight saw it too, and her expression turned from confusion to dread. She pulled him aside, her voice a hissed whisper. Don't you see what you're doing? You're becoming a symbol. A alternative. Ponies will start looking to you for answers that challenge the princesses, challenge destiny itself. I'm not giving answers, Twilight, he said, his gaze sweeping over the ponies whose faith in a perfect system was now, for the first time, visibly shaken. I'm just asking questions they're afraid to ask themselves. And sometimes, that's more dangerous. That night, in the Ponyville hospital, the recovered manticore slept under Fluttershy's care. In Canterlot, Princess Celestia reviewed the reports, her face illuminated by candlelight. The report included the crowd's reaction, the awe, the doubt, the whispered questions. She dipped her quill in ink and began to write a new set of orders. Her script, usually flowing and graceful, was sharp, decisive. The Council of Destiny had spoken of variables. The Manticore incident was not a variable. It was a symptom. And the stallion at the center of it was no longer just a disruptive guest. He was a catalyst for a disease she had spent a millennium eradicating, the disease of doubt. In the darkness of her study, Celestia, the Sun Princess, the embodiment of benevolent order, made a decision. The gardener could no longer simply warn the weed. She had to consider removing it, root and stem, before it infected her entire garden. The love in her heart was real. The fear in her heart was real. And in that moment, the fear began to whisper louder than the love. Chapter 5: The Fractured Lattice. The Manticore incident became a quiet, persistent tremor beneath Ponyville's placid surface. Ponies didn't discuss it openly, that would be disharmonious, but a new current ran through their interactions. A sidelong glance at Naruto carrying a heavy cart for Bonbon. A whispered conversation between parents outside the schoolhouse, cut short when he passed. It was the sound of a foundational story developing a crack. Twilight Sparkle became his shadow, her monitoring shifting from academic to anxious. She documented everything: his sleep patterns, minimal, his eating habits, he preferred the apples from the wild edge of the orchard, his interactions, few, and growing fewer as ponies grew unsure how to act. Her scrolls filled with observations, but the conclusions remained elusive, trapped between her devotion to Celestia's wisdom and the evidence before her eyes. It was Pinkie Pie who broke the silent tension in the most Pinkie way possible, with a party that wasn't a party. Naruto found the invitation under his door at the library, a simple, unadorned card that read, "Your welcome to Ponyville party was all wrong. Meet me at Sugarcube Corner. After hours. No balloons. Well, maybe one balloon. But a sad one. P.P." Intrigued, he went. Sugarcube Corner was dark, the usual riot of color muted. In the back kitchen, Pinkie sat at a large table, her mane less buoyant than usual, deflated into soft curls. A single, gray balloon floated listlessly from a string tied to her hoof. "You figured it out," she said, not looking up from the dough she was kneading with uncharacteristic slowness. "Figured what out?" "That my Pinkie sense, my party can enjoy my whole pinkiness." She gestured vaguely at her own exuberant cutie mark, 3 balloons. "It's not just me being happy. It's a pressure valve." Naruto took a seat across from her. "Explain." She sighed, a sound that seemed too heavy for her. "I feel things. Not just feelings, but the bends in the air. When some pony is sad but smiling, it creates a little kink. When they want to say no but say yes, it makes a tiny squeak. When the whole town is pretending everything is fine and it's not, it builds up like a thunderhead." She slammed the dough, then gentled her touch. "My parties, my silliness, it lets off the steam. It gives every pony a sanctioned, harmonious way to be a little loud, a little chaotic, a little not perfect. So the pressure doesn't build up and break something." She finally looked at him, her blue eyes devoid of their usual mania, filled with a startling, weary lucidity. "Since you got here, the pressure's been different. It's not building up in the old ways. It's twisting. Making new shapes. And I don't know how to pop it anymore." Naruto understood. She was a sensor like him. But where he sensed chakra and malice, she sensed emotional dissonance. She was part of the system's immune response, soothing symptoms so no pony had to address the disease. "You saw the Manticore," he said. "I felt it," she corrected, shuddering. "A scream in the harmony. Like a note so wrong it tore the sheet music. And you didn't play a better note. You just let the wrong note be until it finished screaming. And then it was quiet. Really quiet." She leaned forward, whispering. "That's never happened before. Wrong notes get corrected. They don't get to finish." "Maybe some things need to finish," Naruto said softly. "Maybe the scream is part of the song." Pinkie stared at him, her eyes wide. Then, slowly, a real smile touched her lips, not the wide, explosive grin of Party Pinkie, but a small, genuine, fragile thing. "That's a scary thought." "It is. I like it." She blew up the gray balloon until it was round and full, then tied it off. It wasn't sad anymore. It was just a balloon, holding its potential. "Be careful, Naruto. The lattice is straining. And when it strains, the princesses feel it. And they fix things." The fix arrived 2 days later, not from Celestia, but in the form of a royal decree posted in the town square. Mayor Mare read it aloud to a gathered crowd, her voice tinged with bewildered pride. "By order of Princess Celestia, in recognition of Ponyville's unique role as the heart of harmony and in light of recent, atypical events, the settlement of Ponyville shall be granted a permanent harmonic resonance stabilizer. This marvel of modern magical engineering will ensure the emotional and magical well-being of our community, smoothing any fleeting dissonance and reinforcing the bonds of friendship and destiny." The crowd murmured, a mix of pride and confusion. A stabilizer? It sounded important, royal, a mark of favor. Twilight's face, however, went pale. She knew the term from advanced magical theory. A harmonic resonance stabilizer was not a reward. It was a regulator. A filter. It was used in places where rogue magic or emotional turmoil was a risk, places like the containment wing of Canterlot's asylum. It gently, constantly, pressed down on unstructured emotion and wild magic, guiding it back into harmonic channels. Naruto, standing at the back of the crowd, felt it before he saw it. A subtle tightening in the air, like the world itself was holding its breath. He looked up. High above, carried by a team of royal Pegasi, a crystalline structure descended. It was beautiful, a geometrically perfect lattice of rose quartz and silver, humming with a soft, pervasive light. It settled onto a newly constructed pedestal in the center of the town square. As its light washed over the crowd, Naruto saw the change. Ponies who had been shifting uneasily relaxed. Subtly worried expressions smoothed into calm contentment. The murmurs of confusion faded into agreeable chatter. The sharp edges of their curiosity about him, their fear from the manticore, their unspoken questions, all were gently sanded down. It was harmony as sedative. Applejack, standing next to him, frowned. Feels quiet. That's the point, Naruto said, his voice low. He could see it with his sage sight, thin, pink threads of magic now wafted from the stabilizer, weaving through the air, seeking out knots of anxiety, spikes of doubt, and gently unpicking them. It was benevolent. It was kind. It was a soft, smiling erasure of anything too challenging. Rainbow Dash zoomed down, landing with a huff. What's the big deal? It's just a fancy statue. Makes everything feel chill. Exactly, Naruto said. No storms. No passion. Just chill. Rain Dash's confidence faltered for a second. Passion was her element. A world without the drive to be awesome, to push limits, what was that? Rarity approached, a hoof to her temple. I do feel ever so soothed. All that tension about the gala designs just melted away. How lovely! But Naruto saw the gray patch in the lattice around her. The creative frustration that often fueled her breakthroughs was being smoothed into placid contentment. Her inspiration, which came from a place of passionate obsession, was being gently discouraged. The stabilizer wasn't attacking. It was consoling. It was telling every pony, in a magical whisper, it's all right. Don't worry. Don't question. Be at peace. And in that moment, Naruto understood the true genius and horror of Celestia's system. It didn't punish dissent. It comforted it away. It made conformity feel like contentment. He turned and walked away from the square, the soothing light feeling like a physical pressure on his skin. Twilight caught up to him outside the library. It's for the best, she said, but it sounded like she was trying to convince herself. After the instability, the scare with the manticore, the princess is just ensuring no pony gets hurt. It's a safety measure. It's a muzzle, Twilight, Naruto said, not looking at her. A very pretty, very comfortable muzzle. That's not. What happens to a pony under that thing who's truly, deeply unhappy with their destiny? What happens to a pony who's grieving, or angry, and needs to feel that to heal? The harmony will guide them to peace. No. It will drug them into peace. There's a difference. He finally faced her. You're a scholar. Test it. Measure creative output. Measure problem solving. Measure genuine emotional depth before and after that thing was activated. See what you find. Twilight opened her mouth to protest, but the scientist in her snagged on the idea. A controlled experiment. Data. She hated that he'd given her a question she now needed to answer. The effects were subtle, pervasive, and chilling. Pinkie Pie's parties became pleasant, well-organized gatherings. The wild, chaotic joy was gone. No pony seemed to miss it. Rainbow Dash found herself less driven to practice new tricks. The sky was calm, and that felt fine. Rarity produced 3 identical, perfectly adequate dresses. She couldn't find the spark. Applejack worked her fields with steady diligence, but the fierce pride in her work felt muted, distant. And Fluttershy simply grew quieter. The animals she cared for became more docile, less playful. The forest's edge grew still. Naruto, whose chakra-based nature inherently resisted the harmonizing field, became a living sore spot in the town's new tranquility. Ponies began to unconsciously avoid him. His foreignness wasn't just strange now, it was uncomfortable, a prick of undefined anxiety in their smoothed-out world. It was the Cutie Mark Crusaders, of all ponies, who approached him 3 days later. They found him at the unregulated edge of the Everfree, where the stabilizer's influence thinned. It's weird in town, Apple Bloom said, scuffing her hoof. Feels like wearing someone else's skin. Everything's boring. Scoodle grumbled, her wings buzzing with restless energy the field usually dampened. Sweetie Belle nodded. I tried to write a song. It just came out as a list of nice things. It was awful. They looked at him, not as a savior, but as a fellow exile from the land of fine. What do we do? Sweetie Belle asked. You feel it, Naruto said. That's the first step. Now you have a choice. You can go back under the light, where it's safe and quiet and nothing hurts. Or you can stay out here, in the weird, where things are messy and scary and real. You can't do both. The three fillies exchanged looks. The weight of the choice was immense. What do you do? Apple Bloom asked. I remember who I am, Naruto said simply. No matter how much light they shine, or what whispers they send, I hold on to my name. My choices. My pain. My joy. They're mine. They're not for smoothing. He didn't give them answers. He gave them a stance. A way to stand in the world without being washed away. As they trotted back toward town, thoughtfully quiet, Naruto felt a new presence. Not pony. Not animal. Something ancient, and hungry, and deeply attuned to the very dissonance the stabilizer was suppressing. It was watching from the deepest part of the Everfree. That night, Princess Luna came to him in a dream. Not as a visitation, but as a dreamwalker in her own realm. The dreamscape was the Ponyville town square, but twisted. The stabilizer glowed in the center, but its pink light had become thick, syrupy strands that entangled the dreaming forms of ponies, holding them in pleasant, repetitive loops, dreams of smiling, of simple tasks, of nothing. Luna stood beside him, her form shimmering with nightmare essence. It suppresses the dream waves, she said, her voice thick with distress. Complex dreams, nightmares, prophetic visions, all flattened into harmonic noise. My domain is being sanitized. She's protecting them, Naruto said, watching a pony dream endlessly of arranging flowers. She is unmaking them. Luna's anger flashed, the dream sky darkening. A pony who does not dream is a pony half alive. The nightmares are important. They process fear. The chaotic dreams inspire. The sad dreams heal. This is a gentle slaughter of the soul. The dream shifted. Now they stood at the edge of the Everfree in the dreamscape. Here, the stabilizer's influence frayed. And in that frayed edge, something stirred in the dream forest. A shape of shadows and sharp angles, drawn to the suppressed nightmares like a scavenger to silence cries. What is that? Naruto asked. An old thing. Luna whispered, fear in her eyes. A creature that feeds not on fear, but on the absence of what should be. On silence potential, on comfort that smothers growth. It is drawn to places where harmony becomes stagnation. We have names for it in the oldest records. The stillness. The complacency. The shadow thing turned, and in the place of its face, Naruto saw a reflection of the stabilizer, but twisted, hollow, a mouth that consumed by offering a deeper, final piece. The stabilizer isn't just controlling the town, Luna said, the dream beginning to dissolve. It's setting a feast for something far worse. My sister cannot see it. She sees only the calm waters. She does not see what grows in the stagnant depths. Naruto awoke in his library bed, the real stabilizer's light a faint pink glow through the window. The town was silent, perfectly peaceful. And in that perfect peace, he felt the first, cold tendril of genuine dread. Celestia's solution to the problem of him was to make the entire town immune to questioning. But in doing so, she had created a vacuum. And nature, magical or otherwise, abhors a vacuum. The next morning, he went to Twilight. She was in her lab, surrounded by charts. Her eyes were tired. The data, she said without looking up. Creative output is down 40%. Problem-solving initiative has dropped. Emotional self-reports show a 90-point increase in contentment and a corresponding decrease in all other emotional states, including excitement and determination. She finally looked at him, her eyes haunted. It's working exactly as designed. It's making every pony happy. Are they? Naruto asked. Twilight didn't answer. She just stared at her charts, at the numbers that proved the success of a spell that felt, in her soul, like a slow, sweet death. The philosophical conflict was no longer abstract. It was here, in the air, in the data, in the too quiet town. The cage was no longer made of bars, but of a light so gentle no pony wanted to leave its warmth. And outside the warmth, in the ancient, untamed dark, something was stirring. Something that considered enforced harmony not an ideal, but an appetizer. Chapter 6. The Stillness That Hungers. The unnatural peace of Ponyville stretched into a week. The stabilizer's rose quartz glow became as much a part of the town as the cobblestones, a permanent dusk-pink twilight that soothed jagged edges before they could even form. It was a success by every metric except the one that mattered most, the quiet, stifled feeling in the back of every pony's throat when they woke up each morning to the same, flawless contentment. Naruto spent his days at the borderlands. He helped Applejack at the very fringe of Sweet Apple Acres, where the stabilizer's influence thinned and the trees grew a little wilder, their apples carrying a tart, rebellious bite. He walked with Fluttershy along the Everfree's edge, where the animals were skittish and the air held the sharp scent of danger and life. He was becoming a creature of thresholds, existing in the space between Celestia's perfected order and the world's intrinsic chaos. It was during one of these walks with Fluttershy that they found the first tangible evidence. A patch of land, about 10 feet in diameter, just inside the Everfree tree line. The grass was not dead. It was still. A perfect, vibrant green, but frozen mid-sway, as if captured in a photograph. No insect buzzed over it. No breeze touched it. Fluttershy reached a hoof toward it, and Naruto caught her leg. Don't. He plucked a leaf from a nearby bush and tossed it into the circle. It did not flutter down. It hung in the air, motionless, an inch above the static grass. Not suspended by magic, but because the very concept of falling seemed absent from that space. What is it? Fluttershy whispered, her animals huddling behind her, sensing wrongness. Naruto knelt, extending his senses. There was no chakra drain, no malicious energy. It was a null zone. A place where process, change, and potential had been extracted. It felt like a scar on reality itself. And at its edges, he detected a faint, cold resonance that mirrored the stabilizer's magic, but inverted. Where the stabilizer soothed activity, this consumed it. The complacency, he murmured, recalling Luna's dream warning. It's feeding, Kurama confirmed, his voice a low growl in Naruto's mind. Not on fear or pain. On the absence of striving. On peace that has curdled into stillness. The princess's machine is creating the perfect conditions for it. They reported it to Twilight, who brought her instruments. Her scans showed nothing. No magical signature, no energy field. Just a localized cessation of entropic processes. As she termed it, her voice shaky. The instruments couldn't analyze what wasn't there. The lack itself was the phenomenon. The next day, 2 more patches appeared. One in a quiet corner of the park, where a squirrel sat frozen on a branch, its beady eyes empty of life or terror, simply paused. Another behind the schoolhouse, capturing a bouncing ball in eternal mid-arc. Panic, however, did not spread. The stabilizer saw to that. Ponies would notice the strange stillness, feel a spike of alarm, and then the gentle pink magic would wash over them, smoothing the fear into mild curiosity, then into acceptance, and finally into forgetting. The patches became inconvenient oddities, like a persistent stain no pony could be bothered to clean. Only those who spent significant time outside the field's strongest influence, Applejack at her far fields, Fluttershy at the forest's edge, the Crusaders in their clubhouse, retained enough emotional volatility to remain concerned. And Naruto, of course. He began to map the patches. They were spreading radially from the Everfree, following ley lines of natural magic that were now starved of vitality by the stabilizer's blanket suppression. The complacency was moving along the paths of greatest deprivation, like mold spreading on damp wood. We have to tell Princess Celestia, Twilight insisted during an emergency meeting in her lab. Applejack, Rainbow Dash, and Rarity were present, their expressions a battle between innate concern and the stabilizer's enforced calm. She knows, Naruto said. He held up a scroll Luna had dream delivered. It contained ancient references from the pre-harmony era, warning of the stillness, a blight born not of discord, but of will's surrender. Then we need a bigger stabilizer. Or more of them, Rainbow said, though her usual fiery conviction was dampened, coming out as a sluggish suggestion. That's like putting out a fire by smothering it in oil, Naruto said, his calm voice cutting through the magical lethargy. This thing eats harmony. The more you try to enforce peace, the richer the feast you lay for it. You're trying to cure a sickness caused by silence with more silence. Then what do you suggest? Rarity asked, a hint of her old sharpness piercing through. We cannot simply have turmoil. That's what caused the problem with the Manticore. The Manticore wasn't caused by turmoil, Naruto corrected. It was caused by harmony magic trying to force a wild thing to be something it wasn't. This, he pointed a map showing the spreading patches, is what happens when you remove all possibility of being anything at all. You create a vacuum. And this, he tapped the map over the Everfree, is the vacuum's answer? Applejack, whose Earth Pony connection made her feel the land's sickness like a physical ache, spoke up. He's right. The land's asleep. And something's nibbling on it while it dreams. The meeting dissolved into circular, sluggish debate. The stabilizer in the town square hummed a little louder, pouring its soothing energy into the library. One by one, the pony's urgency faded. Rainbow shrugged, saying it was probably just a weird weather pattern. Rarity mused that the still patches had a certain stark beauty. Twilight became absorbed in a tangential theory about localized time dilation. Only Applejack, fighting the fog with sheer stubbornness, met Naruto's gaze as the others left. "This ain't right," she grunted, sweat beading on her brow from the effort of resisting. "But fightin' it feels like argin with a warm blanket." "The most dangerous prisons," Naruto said, "are the ones you don't want to leave." That night, the complacency struck something conscious. It wasn't a pony. It was a tree. An ancient, gnarled oak on the border of the Everfree, known to locals as the grandfather tree. It was a place of small offerings, of whispered secrets, a landmark that had witnessed centuries. That night, under the moon, its rustling leaves fell silent. Not a gradual quieting, but an abrupt, total cessation. Naruto felt it happen. A small, vital presence in his sage perception, the tree's slow, patient awareness of sun and storm and passing creatures, simply winked out. Not death. Erasure. He was there by dawn. The tree stood, its bark healthy, its leaves green. But they did not move. No sap flowed within. No ants crawled on its trunk. A sphere of perfect stillness enveloped it, 20 feet in radius. Birds that flew into this sphere ceased flapping, hanging motionless in the air, caught in the act of living. This time, the effect was too large, too eerie to be fully smoothed over. A crowd gathered at the edge of the stillness, murmuring with a fear that the stabilizer struggled to quell. Mayor, her voice artificially steady, declared it a unique meteorological event, and cordoned off the area. It was then that Scootaloo, buzzing on her scooter at the crowd's edge, did something foolish and brave. She saw a terrified baby bird frozen in mid-fall from the grandfather tree's branches. Without thinking, she zipped under the caution tape and into the stillness zone to catch it. The effect was instantaneous. Her scooter's wheels locked. Her wings froze mid-buzz. Her body pitched forward but did not fall. She was suspended at a 45-degree angle, her face etched with sudden, motionless panic. Not a statue, but a living pony trapped in a single, eternal moment. The crowd's murmur rose to a unified gasp of horror. This time, the stabilizer couldn't suppress it. The sight of one of their own, especially a foal, caught in such a fate, pierced the magical apathy. Sweetie Belle screamed. Apple Bloom tried to charge in after her friend, but Big Macintosh held her back. Naruto moved. He didn't run. He walked deliberately to the tape, his eyes fixed on Scootaloo. He could feel the null zone from here, a sucking emptiness that promised an end to all struggle, all pain, all worry. It was the ultimate harmony, the harmony of nothingness. You cannot fight nothing with force, Kurama warned. Your chakra will be consumed. Your will might be all that remains. Naruto took a breath, centering himself. He thought not of battle, but of teaching. Of Iruka. Of Kakashi. Of Jiraiya. He thought of the will of fire, not a blaze that consumed, but a hearth that nurtured, that insisted on the messy, painful, glorious process of life and growth. He stepped across the boundary. The effect was visceral. It was like stepping into a soundproof room at the center of the universe. All sensation of life, of magic, of time, drained away. His chakra, the energy of life and spirit, flickered at its edges, threatening to gutter out. The world grayed. The only thing that remained vibrant was the stillness itself, a cold, passive, infinite hunger. He focused on Scootaloo. On her motion. Her desperate lunge was an act of courage, of loyalty, of chaotic, beautiful action. The stillness saw it as food. Naruto had to remind the universe, and the creature behind this, what that action was. He didn't use chakra. He used memory. He projected, with every fiber of his being, the sensation of speed. The wind in your face. The burn in your muscles. The thrill of almost falling. He projected loyalty, the stupid, reckless drive to save a friend. He projected fear, and the choice to act despite it. He was not attacking the stillness. He was redefining what it had captured. He was insisting that this frozen moment was not a peaceful tableau, but a story interrupted. A verb, not a noun. He placed a hand on Scootaloo's frozen shoulder. You're moving, he whispered, his voice the only sound in the void. You're flying. You're saving him. Don't stop. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then a crack. Not in the air, but in the idea of the stillness. A single, rainbow-feathered wing twitched. The scooter's wheel creaked, turning a millimeter. The baby bird in Scootaloo's outstretched hoof let out a terrified cheep. The spell, the ontological theft, was broken. Scootaloo tumbled forward in a heap, the baby bird fluttering free. The stillness zone didn't vanish, but it recoiled, shrinking back several feet, repelled by the reassertion of narrative, of action, of life. Naruto scooped up the dazed, shivering filly and carried her out of the zone. The moment he crossed back into the world of sound and sensation, the crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in a raw, unfiltered tumult of relief, fear, and confusion. The stabilizer's field visibly strained, flickering as it tried to process the emotional tsunami. Rainbow Dash was there first, snatching Scootaloo into a fierce, trembling hug. Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle piled on, sobbing. Naruto stood at the edge of the crowd, his body trembling from the metaphysical effort. He looked at the grandfather tree, still locked in its eternal pause. He had pushed the blight back, but not defeated it. It was learning. And it was still hungry. Princess Celestia arrived that afternoon in a sunbeam of majestic authority. She surveyed the stillness zone, her expression grave. She listened to the reports, her eyes lingering on Naruto. "This is a grave development," she announced to the assembled town. "An ancient blight, thought eradicated, has returned. It preys on uncertainty, on fear. Therefore, effective immediately, the power of the harmonic resonance stabilizer will be increased. Royal guards will patrol the ever-free border. We will contain this threat with order and light." She then turned to Naruto. Privately, her voice was soft. "You saved a filly's life. For that, you have Equestria's gratitude. But you also stepped into a magical anomaly of unknown properties, risking not only yourself but potentially exacerbating the phenomenon. Your unique resistance to harmony may act as an attractant. For the safety of all, I must ask that you remain within the stabilized zone of Ponyville until this is resolved." It was house arrest. Polite, concerned, logical house arrest. As Celestia departed, the stabilizer in the square flared, its light intensifying to a blinding rose gold. The emotional relief from Scootaloo's rescue was now gently, firmly molded into trust in the princess, into a desire for stronger order. The questions, the terror, the messy humanity of the event were being tidied up into a harmonious narrative, danger contained by brave princess. Town protected. Order maintained. Naruto, standing in the suddenly overwhelming glow, felt the world trying to sand down his edges, to make him a compliant part of the story. He closed his eyes, reaching inward. "They're doubling down," Kurama snarled. "The sickness deepens, and her cure is more of the poison." She can't see it, Naruto thought. She sees only chaos needing order. She can't see that the order is what's sick. That night, Luna came to him again in a dream, but her form was fractured, fading. The stabilizer's amplified field was invading the dream realm, turning it into a pastel fog. "It grows stronger, with the fear," her voice echoed, distant. "It is coming, for the heart of the stillness, the place where choice was first denied." The dream shattered. Naruto awoke, the stabilizer's light painting his room in shades of artificial rose. The heart of the stillness. The place where choice was first denied. He knew, with sudden, chilling clarity, where he had to go. Not into the ever-free, but into Equestria's past. To the original wound. He looked out at the pacified, sleeping town. Celestia's order said stay. The dying dream of a princess said go. A shinobi's duty was to protect, not to obey. As the moon reached its zenith, Naruto Uzumaki melted into the shadows, bypassing the royal guards with a silence born of 100 night missions. He moved not toward the chaotic Everfree, but toward the most ordered, sacred place in Equestria, the royal archives of Canterlot. The answer wasn't in fighting the stillness. It was in understanding what had birthed it. And for that, he needed a truth not found in the approved histories. He needed the first lie. The lattice of harmony was fracturing. And he was going to find the crack it all began with. Chapter 7, The First Lie. Canterlot at night was a city of polished silence. The harmonic resonance stabilizer's influence was even stronger here, a constant, soothing pressure in the air that felt to Naruto like wading through warm honey. Guards patrolled in predictable, placid rhythms, their alertness softened into routine. The perfect order made infiltration not easier, but different, less about dodging vigilance, more about becoming an anomaly the system wasn't programmed to recognize. He moved like a ghost, his chakra suppressed to the merest whisper, his steps finding the minute gaps in the magical surveillance wards, not by overpowering them, but by existing in the blind spot between their structured frequencies. The archives were not in the main castle, but in a separate, older spire of blue-veined marble, a monument to knowledge as control. The entrance was sealed with a door of enchanted crystal that required a cutie mark key, a pony's unique magical signature attuned to their destiny. Naruto placed his palm against it. He didn't try to mimic magic. Instead, he projected a concept, refined through years of mastering sage mode, seeking understanding. It was a truth, his truth, and the door, designed to bar deceit, hesitated. For a being built to filter based on harmonic alignment, a pure, undiluted intent was a paradox. The crystal shimmered, confused, and with a soft click, swung inward. Inside, the air was cold and smelled of vellum and ozone. Towering shelves stretched into darkness, holding scrolls catalogued not by subject, but by harmonic relevance. The approved histories were in well-lit sections, their bindings gleaming. He ignored them. He sought the shadows, the closed stacks, the sections labeled in Old Ponish. Anomalous records, pre-celestial concordance, the discordant era. His sage sight allowed him to perceive the emotional resonance of the texts themselves. The approved histories glowed with a uniform, warm gold. These older scrolls pulsed with more complex hues, the gray of sorrow, the deep blue of confusion, the stark white of fear. He found it in a sealed lead glass case at the very back of the lowest level. A single, unadorned stone tablet, not a scroll. Its resonance was not complex. It was a profound note of green, the green of deep forests, of wild things, of life before the pruning. The label read simply, Fragment 17, the Seed Treaty. He didn't break the glass. He touched it, and with a focused pulse of will, the same will that had calmed the chaotic magic in the castle and repelled the stillness, he asked the stone to share its memory. It was a technique bordering on forbidden, one that risked shattering the artifact and his own mind. But the stone, having held its truth in silence for millennia, seemed to yearn for a witness. The world dissolved into memory not his own. He saw Equestria not as a kingdom, but as a riotous, glorious chaos. Forests of impossible color stretched to jagged mountains. Rivers ran uphill on a whim. Creatures of myth and magic lived not in harmony, but in a vibrant, competitive, ever-shifting ecosystem of conflict and cooperation. There were no cutie marks. Ponies were varied. Some had horns, some wings, some either, some both, not as fixed tribes, but as expressions of individual potential that could shift over a lifetime. They were wild, free, and gloriously unpredictable. Two figures stood at the center of this world, not as rulers, but as powerful first among equals. Celestia, her coat the color of dawn, her magic that of nurturing growth and gentle order. Luna, her coat the deep blue of twilight, her magic that of dreams, secrets, and necessary decay. They were sisters, balancing the world between them. And there was a third. A being of pure, joyful chaos, who defied form and name. They, was the spirit of the untamed world, the catalyst that kept everything from settling into stagnant patterns. The ponies of this time argued, competed, fought, loved, and created with a fervor that was both terrifying and beautiful. Then came the blight. It was not the stillness. It was its opposite, a ravenous, intelligent force of entropy that sought to reduce all complexity to inert dust. It fed on conflict, yes, but also on life itself. It turned forests to ash, rivers to sand, magic to nullity. The chaotic spirit fought it, but its chaos was ineffective against something that sought only void. The sisters fought with order and dreams, but the blight consumed their structured magic like kindling. In desperation, they devised a plan. Not to defeat the blight, but to outlast it. To create a pocket of reality so stable, so perfectly balanced, that the blight would find no purchase and starve. They called it the harmonic lattice. To power it, they needed a source of immense, cohesive energy. They turned to the chaotic spirit. Lend us your power, Celestia pleaded. Let us weave it into a shield of perfect balance. It is the only way to save our world. The spirit of chaos agreed. It loved the world in its own way. It poured its essence into the sisters' spell. But the spell, as cast, was a betrayal. Perfect balance, they realized, could not tolerate chaos. To save the world, the chaotic essence had to be not just woven, but bound and transformed. The lattice, as it solidified, did not just protect, it defined. It began to smooth the wild edges of reality, to categorize the uncategorizable, to assign roles where there had been only beings. The spirit felt its nature being rewritten. It roared in betrayal, fighting back. Its struggle nearly shattered the nascent lattice. In a moment of terrible, pragmatic decision, Celestia did not banish it. She dissolved it. She took its raw, chaotic essence and fractured it into 1,000 pieces, embedding them into the lattice itself as stabilizing, randomness generators, the seeds of what would later be called cutie marks, destiny magic, the very principle of assigned purpose. The first cutie marks appeared on ponies that day. Not as revelations, but as implants. A piece of bound, tamed chaos, giving them a focused talent, a defined role in the new, safe, orderly world. The lattice solidified. The blight, deprived of complexity and conflict to consume, receded and slept. Equestria was saved. But as the centuries passed, the sisters saw the cost. Ponies forgot how to change. Tribes solidified. Potential narrowed to talent. The world became beautiful, safe, and stagnant. Luna grew to despise the stillness, the silent dreams. Her resentment festered, fed by the very nightmares the lattice suppressed, until she became Nightmare Moon, not a sudden corruption, but a pressure cooker explosion of everything the harmony had buried. And Celestia, heartsick but convinced there was no other way, did the final, unthinkable thing to preserve the peace born of that first lie. She sealed her own sister in the moon. The memory ended with an image, not of the victorious sun, but of Celestia alone in the newly quiet world, weeping tears of sunlight that scorched the perfect grass, as she whispered the justification that would become her gospel for 1,000 years. It was necessary. For harmony. Naruto stumbled back from the tablet, his breath coming in sharp gasps. The green resonance faded, leaving the cold, dead stone. The truth was a physical weight in his chest. Harmony wasn't the natural state of this world. It was a life support system built from the corpse of its chaos, powered by a betrayal. Cutie marks weren't destiny revealed. They were spiritual grafts, fragments of a dissected god used to keep ponies docile and defined. The entire society, its happiness, its peace, its very identity, was built on a foundation of benevolent atrocity. And the stillness, it wasn't some ancient, external blight. It was the original blight. It hadn't been defeated. It had been starved. And now, with the lattice, its old foe, being artificially strengthened to smother the dissonance of free will, it was waking up. It smelled the return of the conditions of its first feeding, a world being simplified, its complexity crushed under the heel of enforced order. Celestia, in her fear of Naruto's influence, was accidentally recreating the very circumstance that had birthed the lattice in the first place. She was setting the table for the monster she thought she'd slain. A soft clop of hooves on marble echoed in the silence. He didn't turn. "You were not meant to see that," Princess Luna's voice said, weary and unsurprised. She stood at the entrance to the aisle, her form seeming smaller in the vast archive. "That memory is my sister's deepest pain. And mine." "You knew," Naruto said, his voice rough. "I knew we had saved our world. I knew the cost felt like a slow death. I did not know the specifics of the spirit's dissolution until after my return. The memory was sealed away, even from me." She approached, her eyes on the tablet. "She did not tell me because she knew I would have chosen death in the wild world over life in this gilded cage. She made the choice for all of us. As she always does." Naruto finally looked at her. "And the stillness?" "Is the original sickness, yes. Starved, not slain. And my sister's cure, more harmony, more control, is like feeding a starving beast after a 1,000-year fast." Luna's horn glowed, and a shroud of concealing magic fell over the tablet once more. "She will not listen to me. She sees my fear as a relic of my corruption. She sees you as the spark of the chaos we sacrificed. You are the living reminder of the choice she cannot bear to have made in vain." "So what do I do?" Naruto asked, the enormity of it threatening to overwhelm even his hardened calm. "Tell every pony their cutie marks are prison tattoos? Shatter their world to save it?" "No." Luna's voice was firm. "That would be her fear realized, chaos and despair. The lattice is real now. It is part of them. To tear it out violently would kill the patient." She met his gaze. "You must do what you have already done. Not destroy the cage. Prove the door exists. Prove a pony can choose to stay or leave. Your very existence, your calm, your choice to protect without controlling, it is a mirror held up to our founding sin. The stillness feeds on the absence of choice. So you must be choice. In everything you do." She turned to leave. "The archives will report your unauthorized entry at dawn. My sister will see it as confirmation of your threat. The time for polite containment is over. You must return to Ponyville. The final confrontation will not be in a library or a council chamber. It will be in the heart of the stagnation she has created. And you will not face her, or the council. You will face the embodiment of her fear, and ours." Luna vanished into shadow, leaving Naruto alone with the weight of a world's stolen chaos on his shoulders. He returned to Ponyville as the false dawn tinged the sky. The amplified stabilizer's glow was a visible dome over the town, a rose-gold bowl holding in the quiet. The stillness patches had grown, merging into a single, expanding ring of frozen life around the western edge, slowly encroaching on the outermost homes. The town was not asleep. Ponies stood in the streets, or looked out their windows, their expressions placid but their eyes holding a dull, trapped horror. They could feel it now, the pressure of the null zone, the life being slowly siphoned from their world. The stabilizer could no longer fully mask the existential dread, it could only tranquilize their response to it. They were awake, aware, and peacefully helpless. He went to the library. Twilight was there, surrounded by frantic calculations, the stabilizer's light warring with the panic in her eyes. "It's not working!" she cried as he entered. "The increased harmonic field is accelerating the stillness's growth. The equations are clear, it's using our own stability as a catalyst. Princess Celestia says we need to push the field to maximum, create a perfect harmonic vacuum to suffocate it, but the models show that would just create a perfect still point. It would consume Ponyville in an instant." She was finally seeing it. The data had broken through her faith. "Where are the others?" Naruto asked. "Applejack is at the farm, trying to keep the trees alive by sheer will. Rainbow dashes, flying patterns uselessly. Rarity is sewing, as if making a pretty dress will help. Fluttershy is with her animals, trying to comfort them. Pinky! Twilight gestured helplessly. Pinky is just sitting in the square, staring at the stabilizer. She hasn't moved or spoken in hours. Naruto found Pinkie Pie exactly as described. She sat directly before the pulsing crystal lattice, her mane completely flat, her tail straight. The joyous pressure valve was shut, and the emotional back pressure had broken her. "It's too heavy," she whispered as he sat beside her. "All the unsaid things? All the smiles that are screams. The lattice is squeezing them down, and the stillness is drinking them up. I can't pop it anymore. There's no joy left to make a bang." He put a hand on her shoulder. "You don't need to make a bang, Pinky. You just need to remember what a feeling feels like. Any feeling." He stood and walked to the town hall steps, turning to face the quietly terrified ponies who had begun to gather, drawn by some residual instinct. "Every pony!" he called out, his voice cutting through the magical haze. It wasn't a shout. It was a clear, carrying tone that demanded attention without aggression. "You can feel it. The emptiness eating the edges of your town. The quiet that isn't peaceful. Your princess's magic is telling you not to be afraid. But I'm telling you it's alright to be afraid." Heads tilted. The stabilizer hummed louder, trying to soothe the disruption. "Fear means you're alive. It means you care about something worth losing. This?" He gestured at the beautiful, deadly crystal. "This is trying to make you okay with losing it. It's trying to make you comfortable in your own coffin." Mayor Mare stepped forward, her civic pride fighting the fog. "Now see here. The princess. The princess is trying to save you from a monster by becoming a gentler version of it." Naruto's voice rose, not in anger, but in fierce, compassionate truth. "The stillness out there feeds on surrendered will. On peace without choice. And she is offering it a banquet." He jumped down from the steps, walking among them. "Your cutie marks. Your talents. They're real. They're part of you. But they are not all of you. You are more than a symbol on your flank. You are the choices you make despite your talent, or because of it, or instead of it. A cutie mark is a gift, not a sentence." The stabilizer was at full power now, the rose gold light almost solid. Ponies wavered, their faces slackening back into acceptance. Then, from the back, a small, clear voice. "He's right." Apple Bloom stepped forward, her sister behind her, a wall of stubborn earth pony resistance to the magic. "My mark's gonna be an apple. I know it. I love apples. I love my farm. But I also want to be a carpenter. And a dancer. And maybe a silly pony who makes funny hats. That's me too. The farm ain't my cage. It's my starting line." One by one, others found their voice, fighting through the syrup of magic. "I love making dresses," Rarity said, her voice strained but clear. "But sometimes I hate it. Sometimes it's frustrating and awful and I want to smash the mannequin. And that's part of it. The beauty comes from the struggle. I'm loyal to my friends," Rainbow Dash yelled from above, doing a sharp, defiant loop. "But I'm also loyal to being the best. Those things fight sometimes. And that's okay. That's what makes it awesome." The lattice flickered. The collective, conscious assertion of messy, contradictory, chosen identity was a toxin to its perfect order. It was also a shield against the stillness, which recoiled from the sudden surge of defined, willful selfhood. But it wasn't enough. The stillness ring tightened inches from the first houses. The grandfather tree's zone had expanded, swallowing the Crusaders' clubhouse. The world was holding its breath. And in that moment, a sunbeam, harsher than any natural light, stabbed down from the sky, and Princess Celestia descended into the town square. Her expression was not angry. It was heartbroken, resolute, and terrifyingly calm. "You have broken your word, Naruto Uzumaki," she said, her voice the toll of a funeral bell. "You have spread discord and fear in a time of crisis. You have turned ponies against the very magic that protects them." Her gaze swept over her trembling subjects. "My little ponies, do not listen. This is the voice of the chaos that nearly destroyed us once before. I will not let it happen again. For the sake of all Equestria, I must neutralize the anomaly." Her horn ignited with the power of the sun itself. The harmonic stabilizer glowed in sympathetic resonance, not to soothe now, but to bind. Tendrils of solidified light, beautiful and deadly, lashed out from the crystal toward Naruto. This was not the crystal stasis. This was a forced, immediate harmonization, an attempt to rewrite his very nature on the spot, to dissolve him into the lattice as a stabilizing element, just as the chaotic spirit had been dissolved. The ultimate peace. The final silence. Naruto Uzumaki stood his ground, not raising a hand in attack. He looked at the ponies finding their voices. He looked at the heartbroken goddess trying to save her world by killing its soul. He looked at the creeping nothing that fed on her fear. And he made his choice. Not to fight the light. Not to embrace the dark. But to stand in the terrible, beautiful, messy space between, and be the door.